The Grand Conference Hall on Axion Prime was a masterpiece of galactic design, an astonishing symbol of the galaxy's diverse civilizations. Suspended hundreds of meters above the vibrant metropolis below, it appeared to float in midair, held aloft by radiant beams of light. Its construction seemed to defy known laws of gravity and physics, embodying the advanced knowledge of the galaxy's ancient races. Inside, an expansive dome arched overhead, crafted to accommodate thousands of beings from far-flung planetary systems. The ceiling sparkled with holographic constellations, each star symbolizing the origin of the linguists who had gathered here for this historic event. Representatives from over 50 species filled the hall, each carefully selected for their expertise in the elusive field of galactic linguistics, an esteemed discipline reserved for only the most distinguished scholars. A sense of expectancy filled the air, but an undercurrent of tension lay beneath it, unmistakable even across different species. For centuries, the galaxy's finest minds had sought to develop a universal language, one that would allow communication across vast cultural divides. Yet, despite the extraordinary intellect brought to bear on the challenge, no solution had emerged. Amelia Grant, a human linguist and Earth Soul delegate, was one of the few humans ever invited to this prestigious gathering. Adjusting her translator, she felt a ripple of nervousness as she surveyed the room. Humanity's relatively recent entry into the Galactic Council made her presence unusual, and several alien scholars regarded her with both curiosity and wariness. Humans, adaptable and resilient, were still somewhat of a mystery to many species, perceived as primitive in their grasp of the galaxy's complex linguistic systems. Amelia's invitation was largely ceremonial, and she was aware that many of her colleagues doubted she could offer significant insights. At that moment, the opening speaker, a venerable scholar from Kthra named Ashra, moved forward. Ashra's crystalline species refracted light with every movement, casting dazzling rainbows across the hall. Known for their linguistic mastery, the Kthran's communicated in melodic tones and vibrations that sounded to most like a haunting, beautiful song rather than structured language. Ashra's voice chimed, resonating across the room. Honored scholars from the distant reaches of our galaxy, she began, her tone echoing melodically. Once more, we gather to pursue a single universal language, a language to bridge the vast differences that define us. She paused, her crystalline body glowing with a soft golden radiance. Yet, even after centuries of intense study, we stand at an impasse. None of our attempts have fully captured the essence of universal connection. A subdued murmur rippled through the hall as the weight of her words resonated. Different species exchanged glances, some filled with frustration, others with quiet resolve, refusing to relinquish hope for a breakthrough. Amelia looked around, noting both the quiet expressions of resignation on some faces and the fierce determination on others, all focused on the shared dream of achieving universal understanding. The conference hall swiftly transformed into a center of spirited debate, with linguists engaging across a multitude of languages, their exchanges facilitated by translation devices that struggled to keep pace. Delegates from species with radically different communication methods voiced their complaints. The Aerin, towering beings with exoskeletons resembling insect carapaces, emitted clicks and chirps of dissatisfaction, their antennae quivering. Nearby, a group of lumens, who communicate through bursts of colored light emanating from their skin, flashed sequences that signaled agitation. A lumen scholar beside Amelia radiated a muted red glow, an unmistakable sign of frustration. Amelia shuffled her notes, feeling the heavy weight of the unspoken challenge pressing upon her. She had devoted her entire career to studying the linguistic complexities of Earth's languages, understanding how symbols, sounds, and gestures convey meaning across diverse cultures. Yet here, in this galactic assembly, Earth's achievements seemed insignificant compared to the linguistic feats unfolding before her. The debate intensified, growing more heated with each passing moment. Scholars from prominent planets argued that the universal language should rely on communication forms common to their own species. An envoy from Kian Prime, whose language consisted of pheromones undetectable to most beings, insisted that chemical communication was the most efficient and inclusive method. This proposition was met with visible disdain by others who depended on auditory and visual cues for interaction. Amelia's heart began to race. She knew her presence was largely symbolic. Humans had only recently secured a position within the Galactic Council, and their contributions were often met with skepticism. However, as she observed the heated discussions, an idea began to crystallize in her mind. Perhaps the solution wasn't about identifying a single form of communication that every species could inherently understand. Maybe the key was adaptability. Summoning her courage, she raised her hand, a gesture recognized across several species as a request to speak. The hum of conversation subsided as attention shifted toward her. Ashra, visibly intrigued, inclined her crystalline head and gestured for Amelia to proceed. "Thank you, esteemed colleagues," Amelia began, carefully choosing her words. The translator device at her collar glowed softly, rendering her speech into dozens of galactic dialects. "I realize that I may be an unconventional presence here, and that Earth is still a relatively new member of the Council. However, I believe there's an approach we haven't fully explored." A ripple of skepticism moved through the room. Some scholars exchanged glances, their faces expressing doubt, while others folded their limbs in a universally understood defensive posture. "What if," she continued, "instead of seeking a single method of communication, we designed a language that adapts to the natural communication methods of each species while maintaining a shared structure of meaning? A flexible language that incorporates the strengths of each mode, sounds, symbols, light, even chemical markers, so that every species can communicate within their own capabilities while understanding others." Her proposal was met with stunned silence, followed by scattered murmurs of surprise and curiosity. Ashra's crystalline form shimmered a wary shade of blue, an indicator Amelia now recognized as curiosity. Buoyed by the glimmer of interest, Amelia continued, "On Earth, we've found that communication goes beyond spoken language. We have sign languages, visual symbols, and body gestures that allow us to bridge differences. My suggestion is a framework where, for instance, a lumen could convey meaning through color patterns, a Yoran might respond with rhythmic clicks, and an Athren could contribute through sound. Each would use their native expression while following a shared structure." Her words sparked mixed reactions. Some listeners appeared intrigued, others unconvinced. Amelia could feel the skeptical gazes around her, yet glimpses of interest in the varied sensory organs of certain scholars reassured her. Addressing the assembly, Ashra's voice rang with harmonized tones. "Indeed, this is a unique approach, but perhaps it's exactly the kind of innovative thinking we need to finally solve this long-standing challenge." She turned to Amelia, her crystalline surface reflecting a vibrant green. "Would you be willing to assist us in testing this concept, human?" With excitement barely contained, Amelia nodded. She hadn't anticipated that her idea would be embraced so swiftly, especially by such respected minds. The prospect of collaborating with the galaxy's foremost scholars filled her with purpose. In that moment, she felt the beginnings of a groundbreaking movement. She knew the journey would be challenging, requiring her to navigate alien customs, counter skepticism, and push beyond her Earth-based understanding of language into the realm of interstellar complexity. But as she surveyed the assembly, a renewed determination settled within her. This was her chance to help build something truly monumental, a language that could unite worlds across the galaxy. The Axion Prime Research Center buzzed with both enthusiasm and caution as the trial phase began. Amelia had never worked under such intense scrutiny, with her every step examined by the galaxy's top linguists. Her proposal, daring and untested, was a foreign concept to these established thinkers, accustomed to strictly defined structures unique to their own civilizations. The lab designated for the trial was vast, with walls of transparent screens displaying streams of data in a multitude of languages, characters, symbols, and color patterns. Each section focused on a distinct language family, categorized by primary forms of communication: visual, auditory, tactile, or chemical. Standing amidst it all, Amelia felt as though she were at the crossroads of galactic knowledge, both thrilling and humbling. Ashra, the Kthran scholar who had first shown interest in Amelia's proposal, drifted closer. Her crystalline form glowed with a soft lilac as she studied the setup, a color Amelia had come to recognize as reflective thought. She now knew each hue shift in Ashra's crystalline form conveyed a spectrum of emotions, with colors ranging from deep violet to bright yellow signifying everything from contemplation to eagerness. "How do you propose we begin?" Ashra's voice carried a soft, resonant tone, captured neatly by Amelia's translator. Amelia took a steadying breath, gathering her thoughts. For this language to work, it needs to be adaptable but still hold a universal structure. "I'd like to start with representatives from each communication style, say, auditory, visual, and tactile, to create a foundational base that respects each species' unique approach." The scientists exchanged glances, murmuring amongst themselves. A mixture of skepticism and curiosity hung in the air. Off to the side, Tayer, a towering Aoran with a sleek black exoskeleton and a rapid, clicking language, clicked in barely concealed impatience. His clicks, partially translated by Amelia's device, left her interpreting his tone. "This proposal from the human suggests an unnatural fusion of our distinct languages." Tayer clicked sharply. "Our methods are fundamentally incompatible. Sounds cannot translate to colors, nor clicks to sense." Amelia nodded, expecting this resistance. Each approach is indeed unique, but every species here has a way of translating meaning into a form that makes sense to them. I'm not suggesting we all need to understand every sound, color, or click. Instead, we need a base that allows each species to express universal meanings within their native forms. Her explanation seemed to quiet the room. Ashra's crystalline surface shimmered, subtly reflecting a few doubtful yet intrigued faces. With this initial understanding, Amelia moved forward. Her first step was to develop a core set of symbols, simple yet universal, to convey fundamental ideas like yes, no, help, and danger. She knew the simplicity might feel rudimentary to some of the scholars, but it was necessary to start small before exploring deeper concepts. She sketched each symbol by hand, ensuring a neutral quality so they could be interpreted in various forms. For yes, she used an upward curve, suggesting affirmation. For no, an intersecting line signaled negation. To signify help, she drew a spiral, symbolizing a call for assistance or growth, an idea inspired by Earth cultures. And for danger, she chose a jagged line, representing disruption or warning. Displaying these symbols on a holographic screen, she addressed the group. These are just starting symbols, but my hope is that each can be adapted into your natural forms of communication. Whether sound, color, or clicks, the scholars studied the symbols closely. Among the lumens, discussions quickly emerged on color patterns to match each symbol's meaning. Yes became a warm green and no a deep red. Meanwhile, Taylor grudgingly clicked out interpretations for each symbol, though his skepticism came through in the slow, methodical clicks. As days passed into weeks, Amelia dedicated herself entirely to the lab, working side by side with representatives from each species. Each conversation, each small breakthrough, brought her closer to the vision of a shared language that could transcend their worlds. For the tactile species, Amelia developed raised patterns that could be felt by touch, inspired by Earth's Braille. Each pattern corresponded to its visual or auditory counterpart, creating a cohesive framework. Her goal was simple yet profound, a structure that allowed each species to interpret meaning in its own way, with a unified sense of understanding across all species. But achieving this was far from straightforward. Misunderstandings were frequent. Some species, like the Keans, who communicated through pheromones, struggled to relate abstract meanings to sense. Others, like the aquatic Nans, who relied on fluid vibrations, found it challenging to translate their fluid-based language into a fixed system. Amelia spent hours studying each species' unique communication style, adapting the symbols to fit their needs. Her most demanding challenge was with the visual communicators, especially the lumens and the seraph, a jellyfish-like species that displayed intricate color patterns on their gelatinous bodies. Their language was dynamic, shifting colors and patterns based on context, resisting her efforts to create a standard structure. She had to design symbols flexible enough to express consistent meanings in shifting colors and patterns without losing clarity. As the work continued, frustrations grew and tensions flared in the lab. Some scholars openly expressed their doubts, their patience wearing thin. Taylor, in particular, approached her one day with a pointed tone, his clicks fast and sharp. "Your symbols are too simple, human. You reduce concepts that our species have developed over millennia. This so-called universal language dismisses the richness of our methods." For a moment, Amelia felt her confidence falter, but she quickly regained her composure. She knew that building a universal language meant finding compromise, often at the expense of complexity. "Think of this language as a bridge, Taylor," she replied gently. "It's not a replacement for your native expressions, but a basic framework we can all use to connect. Each species will still retain its own language. This isn't about loss, it's about creating common ground." Ashra, who had been listening quietly, emitted a soft, approving hum. "Perhaps the human is right, Taylor. Sometimes simplicity allows for greater clarity. Our purpose here is unity, not erasure." As weeks passed, Amelia noticed small but encouraging changes. Some scholars started using the symbols casually in their interactions. A Yoran and a Lumen, working across the lab, communicated using the new language. The Yoran clicked a pattern that the Lumen replied to with a color shift. Amelia felt a mix of pride and relief as the symbols began to catch on, slowly bridging the differences. Then came an unexpected breakthrough. One evening, as Amelia reviewed data alone in the lab, she received a message from Taylor. He'd sent her a series of clicks, encoded in her language, requesting a meeting to discuss potential adaptations that could better integrate the Yoran click patterns into the system. Amelia smiled, realizing that even her most ardent critic was beginning to appreciate the potential of her system. In their meeting, Taylor explained the intricate structure of Yoran clicks, showing how subtle rhythms and pauses conveyed complex ideas. Together, they modified the universal symbols, incorporating rhythm-based interpretations that allowed Yorans to maintain their distinctive distinctive linguistic rhythm while remaining within the universal framework. With Tayer's contributions, Amelia's prototype language grew stronger, gaining acceptance among more scholars. Although challenges remained, the collaborative effort had transformed the language into something richer and more flexible than she had initially envisioned. Skeptical scholars began to recognize the value in a framework that honored their uniqueness while fostering shared understanding. Now, Amelia stood at the center of the grand auditorium on Axion Prime, her heart racing as she looked out over the assembled crowd. The hall, soaring and grand, offered awe-inspiring views of the surrounding stars and was filled with scholars and dignitaries from across the galaxy, each representing worlds with their own cultures, histories, and, most notably, languages. News of her ambitious project had spread, and today marked the culmination of months of intense work. It was time to demonstrate their progress and prove that a universal language could indeed bridge the galaxy's communication divides. The demonstration hall was a marvel of technology, outfitted with holographic projectors and interactive panels designed to let each participant experience the language in their native mode, whether through sound, light, color, or tactile patterns. A charged anticipation filled the air, tempered by lingering skepticism. For many of these alien scholars, a shared language was still a controversial idea, one that seemed to disrupt the intricate linguistic traditions their species had preserved for millennia. Beside her stood Ashra, her crystalline body glowing a supportive emerald green. Amelia gave her a grateful nod, appreciating Ashra's steadfast support. As both ally and mediator, Ashra had bridged gaps between Amelia and other scholars, lending credibility that helped soften the initial doubts surrounding Amelia as a human outsider. Taking a steadying breath, Amelia addressed the assembly, her voice amplified by the hall's translation system. Honored scholars and representatives, thank you for gathering here today. Over these past months, we have worked with dedication to develop a foundational language, a bridge across the diverse ways we communicate. This language is not intended to replace your native languages, but to serve as a tool for common ground. She gestured to the holographic display above her, where the core symbols of the prototype language rotated, each accompanied by a brief description of its meaning. Hello, help, understand, peace, danger, and cooperate. These symbols weren't selected at random. Amelia had chosen words that she believed embodied universal needs, hoping they would resonate with every species present. Today, she continued, you will see just how adaptable this language truly is. Each symbol can be expressed through sound, light, touch, or scent, depending on the speaker's native form of communication, while retaining a shared meaning for everyone, she explained. I invite representatives from 3 species to join me in a demonstration, where we will use the shared language to communicate across our differences. Her gaze swept over the crowd, and 3 volunteers stepped forward. Tayer, representing the Aoran's tactile communication through clicks and vibrations. Sa, a lumen with a form that shifted through radiant colors, and Vi, a neuron who conveyed meaning through resonant hums and fluid-based vibrations. The audience watched closely as Amelia guided the volunteers to their stations, each equipped with technology designed to translate the universal symbols into the native mode of each participant. She stepped back, giving them the stage. Tayer began. The display next to him showed a pattern of symbols, each paired with a rhythm he could click out. His clicks reverberated through the hall, seemingly random to those unaccustomed, but Amelia recognized the structure. The phrase, peace and understanding, a powerful and concise message. Following Tayer, Sa responded in the lumen way. She shifted her form into deep hues of blue and green, pulsing in a rhythmic sequence that mirrored Tayer's phrase. Lumens communicated emotions and ideas through color displays, and now, in the universal language, Sa's colors were delivering Tayer's message back to him. Vi, the neuron, was next. Using her species' fluid vibration method, Vi transformed Tayer's clicks and Sa's colors into a harmonious hum. The hall filled with the resonant sound, a soft vibration that could be felt as well as heard, as Vi expressed peace and understanding in her own medium. The exchange was seamless, flowing from clicks to colors to vibrations, each scholar speaking in their native style, but all connecting over the same shared meaning. The effect was captivating, leaving the hall in awed silence. For the first time, beings from entirely different species were holding a conversation that required no translator, just the foundational symbols Amelia had devised. The audience's reaction was mixed yet largely positive. Some scholars whispered to each other, marveling at the simplicity and beauty of the system. Others looked contemplative, as though wrestling with the implications of what they had just witnessed. Among them, a group of Kian scholars, whose pheromone-based language had proven challenging to integrate, seemed intrigued, their antennae twitching, a gesture Amelia had learned to read as deep interest. Encouraged by the positive response, Amelia invited more volunteers to join in, gradually expanding the range of symbols in use. She watched as lumens, urans, neurons, and even a few tentative kians began to communicate. Using her symbols, they conveyed simple greetings, thanks, and expressions of curiosity and collaboration. What had once been a hall filled with isolated individuals, each limited by their native language, had transformed into a community connected by a common tool. But the real test was yet to come. Ashra, observing the growing excitement with a warm, encouraging glow, approached Amelia and signaled for silence. Human Amelia, she began, her voice a resonant, soothing melody. Your demonstration has shown us promise in this language, but we need to see if it can convey more profound ideas, concepts that go beyond simple greetings or statements of goodwill. If this language is to unify us, it must carry our deepest meanings. Amelia nodded, fully understanding the challenge. Understood, Ashra. I propose we test this language with a concept that each species here holds sacred. The idea of home. A murmur swept through the hall, quieter this time, filled with anticipation. Home was a powerful word, universally understood yet uniquely interpreted by each culture. For some, it was the land they had left behind. For others, a sense of belonging or refuge. Yet it was a word that resonated deeply with all. Amelia displayed the symbol she had crafted for home, an enclosed spiral that suggested both a place of return and a space of protection. She explained its intent, aware that this symbol would be the ultimate test of her language's capacity to hold deeper meaning. Once again, Taylor was the first to respond. This time, his clicks were slow, reverent, each sound weighted with meaning. His clicks translated to "a place where my people's stories live," a phrase that filled the hall with a respectful silence. Saw the lumen followed, her colors shifting into deep, warm hues that pulsed gently. For the lumens, home was more than a physical place. It was a spiritual connection to their ancestors. She emitted a soft amber glow, a symbol of reverence for those who had come before. Vi, the Neuron, then shared his interpretation. In his species' culture, home was the source of water, the life-giving force that connected all living things. His hums were low and resonant, vibrating gently through the hall in a way that felt grounding and nurturing. One by one, representatives shared their versions of home, each expression a unique thread woven into a tapestry of meanings. Amelia could feel the shared emotion in the room, a profound realization that despite their differences, this concept resonated universally. It was a powerful moment, not born from uniformity but from a shared appreciation for their diversity. As the colors, sounds, and vibrations faded, a deep silence enveloped the hall. The impact of what they had achieved was undeniable. Amelia had proven that her language could carry not only simple phrases but also profound, universal emotions. Ashra turned to the assembly, her crystalline body radiating a vibrant gold, the Kthran color of triumph. This language has shown us that understanding transcends form and species. Today, we have witnessed the creation of a bridge between worlds, crafted from our shared desire to connect. Amelia felt a surge of pride as the hall erupted into applause, or its equivalent, a harmonious blend of clicks, hums, and color shifts. She had done it. She had proven that a shared language could unite beings from across the galaxy. And as she stood amid the vibrant expressions of gratitude and awe, she knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy had taken its first step toward a unified future, one where communication would be a pathway to shared discovery and growth. And Amelia, the linguist from Earth, had played a pivotal role in making it possible.